Welcome to another retro shelf video looking at a Commodore 64 book. A few years ago now, on the Lemon 64 forum, there was an effort to error check and proofread Mapping the Commodore 64 and C64C by Sheldon Leemon. Originally published through Compute Books, this was the second edition, adding a complete memory map of GEOS. And then that led to a reprint of the book with the corrections, and that's what we have in front of us. Due to the passage of time, I can't currently find the threads or my emails back and forth about it, but I would like to give full credit, and if I can discover more, I'll add it in the description. So, let's see. A comprehensive memory guide for beginning and advanced programmers of the Commodore 64 and C64 personal computers, including a complete memory map of GEOS. And the original price on the cover. As you can see, this is spiral bound. For ease of access to, you can flip through. So we'll have a quick look through. Copyright, originally published in 1984 and then revised in 1987. Forward, acknowledgements, introduction, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. As you can see, we're gradually going up through basic memory. Chapter 5, chapter 6, the VIC-2 SID I/O devices, color RAM and character ROM. Chapter 7, the kernel ROM at the top of the memory, and chapter 8 is GEOS, and then appendices, typing in programs, how to type them in, screen location table, screen color memory table, screen color codes, ASCII codes, screen codes, Commodore 64 key codes, index by memory location, and GEOS index by memory location. So the foreword says there, we've already gone through 4 reprintings by 1987, and talking about using multiple sources. So we have introduction numbers in this book and or an exclusive or the format of entries. So we start off with page 0 right at the bottom, which is a very handy area of memory. The data direction register for setting bits of active memory, copied from location 1, which sets whether RAM or ROM, and also then with the cartridge can take over control, and then each location then tells you a shorthand for what it contains, number in decimal and hexadecimal, base 16, and then it talks about its use. So there we go, looking through a lot of the basic variables in 0 page, and then very often machine language uses, for example here, a temporary pointer for strings, and can be used by a program. And manipulating these can also allow you to patch in commands and other things like that. Floating point numbers there. Carget for getting the next basic text character, very important routine that's used a lot. And as we go up, you can see we've got command device. Poke that or peek that when you need it. Characters and keyboard buffer. So I'm going to skip ahead a bit here. Page 1, page 2 and 3. Basic and kernels. Storage, so we can still low down 700 to 783. There, the vectors to various routines. Set I/O buffer, which is occasionally used to store data. So then we have from 1K to 40K in memory. Of course, 1024 is the default screen address, which then is followed by the sprite data pointers. And if you move the screen, you also need to move the sprite data pointers. Basic program text, which has to fit below 40959. And then there's an image of the VIC-2, the ROM character set. String 1000, 496 hex, 32768, you will start ROM cartridge, and again in bank 2, an image of the character set. So then the basic ROM, and there is then RAM free. So this is then going through the routines in BASIC, which can be called to set the pointers correctly. And then we have the 4K free RAM at 49152, string C000 in hex, which is again frequently used for machine code programs, uses a wedge so you can jump to it. And then programming for the VIC2, the graphics chip, sound chip, the I devices, the color RAM, which is stored high up in memory, and the character ROM. So then we can see we're going through the VIC registers, so there's position registers, VIC plus 16, 53264 of course, very important for switching sprites on. Light pen registers, raster scan, string D012. There's the sprite enable register at string D015. VIC chip memory control register changes where the VIC chip is looking. Interrupt flag register and mask register if you're splitting the screen and changing colours and things like that. And you see there's some short programs and demonstrations of what's going on as well to help. Collision registers, although many games no longer use those. And then up to the sound interface device registers, showing you how you control each voice. The attack, decay, sustain, release, controlling the waveform. Filter controls there, game paddle inputs, oscillator free, which can be used as a random number generator. And then up to 55296, the color RAM, which echoes the screen RAM, so each location in color RAM corresponds to a position in screen RAM. Show you how to do that. And then the CIA, complex interface adapter registers for controlling inputs and outputs. So we've got straight away there, we've got the joystick ports, the data direction registers, time of day clock is here, interrupt control, serial data port, control registers for the use port as well. I had a fault with the C64 once where the CIA chip had gone faulty, and that caused all sorts of problems. Timers, control registers, and then the character generator ROM, so that's where the character set image, the ROM set is, and you can copy it down with that and then redefine them. And then the kernel, the misspelling of kernel of a nut. And the idea was to provide a jump table into useful routines that would be compatible with other machines, including the PET and VIC-20. While that was a sound idea, it doesn't really work in practice, but there are some ways you can use them, and it's very possible to use these routines in BASIC as well as in machine code by poking the right memory locations. For example, the vector there in 768. Cold start BASIC routine there. And so going through, and then you'll see some of the routines here have locations here have names, so you can always in machine code set them as a label, and then JSR them to get 1 byte from the input device, check in, check out, character out. All these for handling files, testing the stop key. And then chapter 8 here is talking about GEOS and how it works. I'm not entirely certain which revision. It says 1.2 or 1.3, so there may be changes, but it is an interesting way of looking at GEOS and how you can do it. There's various utilities, GeoBasic, GeoProgrammer, that allow you to write your own programs for use in GEOS, and it can also be handy when you're dealing with GEOS files. GEOS has what it calls the VLIR file, which means you have to be careful, particularly with validating a disk with GEOS files on it, because you could destroy some of the extra information that GEOS uses. So like there's some of the control registers for the mouse, which in GEOS can be controlled by a different input device. It's referred to as a mouse in general because it's a pointer. So some of the calls to start and stop things, draw things, which is where GeoBasic makes calls to these. I'll set up a mouse and menu. Some example code there. I'll start going through GEOS here. There's some of its file handling. There. So then we're on to Appendices, Beginner's Guide to Typing in Programs, How to Type in Programs. These use various conventions, so the symbols and brackets represent the control codes. Appendix B, which gives you a list of those control codes. Screen location table, assuming the default is 1024. Then we know that the bottom right is 2023 and this one is 1984. Screen color memory table, again, we start 55296. Screen color codes, which are important depending on which mode you're in. The ASCII codes, which then includes the extended PETSCII characters. So again, you've got ASCII, the character. And then ASCII and screen codes are different. Screen codes are what you poke into the screen, and ASCII is used through printing. Commodore 64 key codes, so if you peak location 197 you can check for a particular key, including the non-stop key here, which can be handy sometimes. There are ways to block that with a poke. And then index telling you some of the key memory locations, so if you want to look up sprite graphics, for example, you can see several of the locations there. And then the GEOS index by memory location rounds things off. So I just bought my first copy after several months of extensive handling. I'm rushing to get another one before my programming comes to a standstill. That's the testimonial from TPUG magazine. So I hope you enjoyed this look at mapping the Commodore 64 and 64C by Sheldon Leemon. This is the reprinted edition. The full PDF of this is also available on archive.org, and I'll add a link in the description so you can find it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Keep watching the channel for more Retro Shelf, merch stand, unboxing and gameplay. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next one.